Now we're done with the product classification, which is required for cycle counting, and now I'm gonna start the cycle counting. So the series of activity, three concurrent programs, and couple of steps that will require and a lot of people involvement. So someone who needs to be an approver, someone who is a creator, and someone who is actually the counting guy. So there are people who are around, they will go and physically count the material. So that basically three people job. So first person is going to create the count, setting up the count. So I'm going to create a new one. So this I set for retail, just giving a count header name, sorry, and then you put here retail cycle count. Now while you do cycle counting, it needs your calendar. I think in the organization definition we said that we want to make use of the calendar, and calendar is very useful in the cycle counting because system sees this calendar to decide whether today is a working day or off. Based on the system today's whether it's working or not, system recommend the end user whether you need to count today or not. There is also some of the analysis that system does, which one of the analysis name is late count. So system is expecting you to count. Suppose you did not count today, then should this be reported as a late count, which you will do eventually tomorrow. So for that, system should know what is the, like, whether there was a off today or not. If there is a planned holiday, then it should not be taken as a late count. So all that will be make use during this calendar. So those, just a kind of caution that if you are testing any of these, uh, after that you will come to know how to test. And also what you need to ensure is you do not test this on Saturday Sunday, because Saturday Sunday Vision 01 calendar is marked as off. So while you're testing, you may not see any recommendation coming from the system. So that I will show you also where you need to watch for, but just make sure that any testing that you do in Vision 01 calendar, you should not you should not try and do on Saturday Sunday, because you don't see that. Alternatively, you can create another calendar which has 7 days working, so there is no impact of when you are testing the scenario in the system. So just second is the adjustment account. So second is the adjustment account. This account is gonna hit whenever you do any adjustment against cycle counting. So there's a transaction type which we have discussed, cycle count adjustment. That transaction type is going to make use of this account to adjust the inventory. So you do plus or minus, debit and credit accordingly will be done on this account, and then year end you absorb this. So I have to give an account, so I give any random account, but you need to ask this data from the finance consultant, and they will eventually ask from the customer. How many days late days? So I'll say like a day, 1 day late should be considered as a late day. This sequence is very important, so we will talk about as we go. This sequence is equivalent to your 146 items which are there in the compile. So it's kind of referring to that sequence. We'll come back and see this sequence usability. Are you going to count in a specific sub inventory, or you want to count the entire organization? So I'll focus on all org, because I don't have control on the data, what all data I'm using. So I make sure that I get something to count today itself. So I'm going to make use of all. Display system. Oh, sorry. So this is unscheduled entries. This is when there is no count. Today's system should not recommend, and if you still want to enter the counting entries, then you can tick this, and that means any day you can enter the cycle counting. Display system on-hand quantity. When you are counting or entering the data into the system, should system display what is the current on-hand quantity. If you're following a ISO norms or any of the data security norms in your organization, then these should not be ticked, because the person who is performing the entering the data, he should not see what is there in the system. Otherwise he can manipulate. So that's the reason we need to check this and take. This is a couple of interesting scenarios, like each one of them build a one scenario, so probably like 6 7 scenarios are there in cycle counting. This is one of them, automatic recount. If I take this, then I perform the cycle counting and I enter the count. Let's say system has an on-hand quantity of 10. You entered 5. Then since you're entering the lower, or you can enter 15 also, whichever way, whether it's a plus or minus, both side you're not hitting the system count, which is 10. So then system automatically perform that an action and says that this item should be recounted. So it doesn't reach for approval. It is going back to the person who has counted and ask him to count again. So he came back and he counted 7 this time. Again you are not there. So 10 was the system cost. So the system is keep recommending automatic recount. How many times? So that times you declare that 3 times system should recommend, and after 3 he enters 7 again, for example, third recount. Then system take that as a final count and send this report for approval. So approval guy has to decide whether 7 and 10 should he approve it, reject it, and whatnot. So that's automatic recount feature. These are the serial control products recounts. If you want to count those serial control item, then you have to set these. I'm just not using this because most of the products in this will have lot control or no lot control. But I have also not tried this, so I'm gonna just skip this one. But one can actually create some serial control item in an organization, and you can try that. This is another one, very interesting, auto schedule. By selecting this schedule, system knows how many days you want to count this product. So you specify the frequency, that you want to count daily, or you want to do a weekly count, or monthly. So if I select, I'm going to select daily because I'm demonstrating it and I need to see something today for me to count, so I'm going to set this. If you select weekly or daily, the impact of that is visible in the date. If I select a date here, let's say daily, once I schedule this in the beginning, then it will populate both the date. It will give the last date when I counted, and it will also show up what is the next date that is coming up. If next date is Saturday and Sunday in this calendar vision 01, then it will skip those 2 days and give me the date of Monday. That you will see once I go to the next step. Count zero quantity. If some of the products do not have any on-hand quantity in the system, do you want to count those products? So basically system says 0. When you reach to the place, you say that okay, 2 cameras are there. So do you want to count them? So if yes, then you have to select as a 0 count. This will also lead to a lot of confusion, because some of the previous model which you are not selling anymore, they would also be reflected in your cycle count. So you have to be careful whether you want to do the 0 count, 0 on-hand quantity counting or not. So I want to put a auto schedule so that I can tell you how to do that. And there is also a manual schedule. If you untake this, then you have to manually schedule that. So that is another scenario. So when I was saying that there are 7-8 scenarios, the scenarios are built from here. So how do you manual schedule a cycle count? How do you auto schedule a cycle count? How do you set those recounts and all that? So last one is the approval. So under this cycle count, which is retail, what are the tolerance that you want to build? So you can build like couple of choices you have. Approval is always required, whether this is within the tolerance or outside tolerance. Never is, I don't think anybody uses that. So it's either the always or out of tolerance. If you're setting out of tolerance, then you have to give the both plus and minus. So if you want to put 10% plus and minus. So if the quantity system on-hand quantity is let's say 10, you are entering 9, then system will not require any approval, because this is within the tolerance. System auto approves those one, so it will not come for approval. But if it is 8 is off by 20%, system has 10 quantities, so it will seek approval. So but if you want, regardless of what data entry has been done, everything requires an approval. Jewelry shop, ideal example, they will not tolerate even one jewelry piece moved out here and there. So they will set like always, approval is always mandatory. So depends upon which kind of product you are, so you need to set those percentage as well. this is also very common to talk about. The same goes quantity, you can have a valuation as well, and there's a hit miss report as well. Hit miss report says that system asked to count, you went on to count and you counted, let's say 10 mobile phones of a specific model. System also stores 10 quantity, then system record this as a hit, but you are away from that, you counted 9 or 11, then that will be treated as a miss. So that kind of report you can generate. So first time right kind of report. So how many times when we count, we exactly count what is there in the system. So that kind of that's an analysis report basically. And how many times we count the error one. So system has 10, you are counting 9 or 11 or 8, whatever is the number. So if you're interested in that kind of analysis, you can perform the hit miss. You can put a percentage as well. I'll just leave it. Let me so that in case there is any miss in this calculation, then it will go to a role based approval. So it's not going to go in any kind of notification. It is just a what you call as a form based approval, so a security based approval. So a user has access to that specific form, he would able to approve it. So it's a form based basically, not the planner, nothing of that. So there is no email notification or any kind of workflow notification. It is an access based approval. The right word is access based. So I have a form. If I have access to that form, I should be able to approve it. So also very important. Where is the cycle counting you're doing for the product? You already said in the beginning that I want to perform cycle counting for the entire organization. But if because I'm saying the count sub inventory is equal to all, but there is a place where you can load all your item, which is part of the ABC code that we have defined. So I have a group name which we have already defined, so I can load the item using this ABC initialization box, and I'm going to do that. So I'll select this compile which we have just created. This has 146 items. So I can select this and then I can do a initialization. When I click on this, the product, all the products which are part of the CW retail compile, they gets loaded to this particular cycle counting called retail. So I'm going to put that now. So under this cycle counting, I'm going to load the data with the help of ABC initialization. So this is the first activity in the cycle counting. So I save it, program got triggered. We'll wait for the program to get completed, and once the program gets completed, the status will be completed here. So we will go ahead and view that request. So initialize cycle counting item, this is completed, so we can refresh this to see if there is any changes in it. Okay, so this has been completed. So what does it mean is all my products which are part of CW retail are now part of this retail as well. So I'll open up just to show you. So everything has come up. So you can scroll down to see all your product. Product specific variance if you want to put, then this is the opportunity for us to prove the quantity variance. If you want to put that, then this will override the cycle count level approvals. So if you have a certain products you want to maintain at the item level approval, then this is where you need to put those. Otherwise everything is governed. If you just say out of tolerance or sorry always, then that has no meaning. But this will be overwritten if you specify any of those limits over here. Now the last piece of this setup is the how many times, because I am saying here auto schedule. So the question comes, how many times in a year you are going to count this. That specification you have to specify under the classes tab. So class A counts per year. So how many times in a year you want to count. So I am saying daily frequency over there. So I can 365 years the total calendar days, but in total calendar days I have holidays coming in. So I got 52 weeks. 1 week has 5 working days. minus your national holiday and all that. So you need to give a number close to, like in ideal world it would be like 260 days in a year, minus all the national holiday and festival and all that. So those number you have to calculate outside the system in Excel or somewhere, and then you put those because you are going to count daily. That is the maximum limit. So you can't put like 400 or something, because that is, that many years, that many days are not there in a year. So yeah. So let me just complete this, and then I show you the calendar, how calendar look like. Calendar is a, which is just a specific way you say which is holiday, which is not holiday, but it doesn't give you an idea that how many years is the working. So I'm gonna use my judgment, 52 weeks into 5, which is equivalent to 262 probably, or 260. I'll put that. So maximum number of times every day I want to count. B and C items I want to count monthly, so 12 months in a year, so I'll put that. And class C I want to count as a quarterly, so 4 quarter in a year, so I'll put that as a 4. So counts per year and the frequency what you have selected, they get they get looked by the engine, which is cycle counting scheduler program, and the combination of these two helps system understand how many times the product will be counted. So take an example. There are like 700 items which are part of class A. The question here is, these 700 items, will they be counted 260 times in a year or not? How system gonna ensure that in a year time this will be counted 260 times? So they see this value, whatever you put, based on this frequency, and they decide when the item to be appear, when the item will appear in your cycle counting report. So the way I created a test data, so that it's very likely that all the class A item will appear in the next working day when I'm doing a cycle count. However, that is not the case for the class B, because this will be counted 12 times in a year. But which all 12 days it will come, because I'm saying here daily, right? So which all 12 days? So it can be any day in a year, but it will, system will ensure that all the products under class B, let's say 300 products are there, they will appear in cycle counting 12 times, not beyond that. So this is where some of the silent point of the what the program is written by Oracle. They ensure that nobody knows when this product will appear in cycle counting report, because if the product is not appearing in the cycle counting report, nobody will go and count that particular product. So if I know, and let's take put a devil's advocate here, if I know that tomorrow you're gonna count the product under class B, then I can easily manipulate that product physical location, because irrespective of where the product is, I will have to ensure that the product should be placed in its original position, so that when the counting personnel will come, they will see the product lying there, and then they'll happily go away, say that everything is good. And you also know that, okay, next month again on a specific day they will come, so you got like 30 days of period to manipulate the product from its physical location. So that, in order to avoid this kind of manipulation, system put the randomness in the with this two variable together. So system will never tell, even not even the technical people will know when this class B items will be appearing in the cycle counting report. And that algorithm, the way it has been written, that it's not even decodable. So much of randomness has been ensured in that. Only judgment you can make from this is, because I put 260, which is like a max type of thing, so you can be assured that any day you run cycle counting, class A item will definitely come. But if I just remove this, instead of 260, if I place just 150, then it will be hard for anyone to decode when that specific product will appear in my cycle counting report, because now it's 150 times in a year, but you have 260 working days, so you never know when that will come, whether 100% you're not sure, right? So that is one of the objective of the cycle counting, so that nobody in the organization will know when the product will be counted, Only the guy who set it up, he can guess, but he will also be not sure, at least in this setup which I'm displaying. So eventually nobody knows, neither the programmer, not the business user, or the person who is creating this cycle counting. So that is one of the merit of the program. I want to put this back to 260 so that today if I'm running, I want to get maximum product so that I can demonstrate. So I saved it. So that complete the setup part. That's the one step of the cycle counting. The next step would be now running the scheduler program, which will populate the date. What is the start date of this program? So that program you can run by tool, and what you call is the cycle count scheduler. First program was loading the item, that's called initialize products. I'm going to run the second program. It will ask for cycle, though no parameter, just put this OK. The concurrent program is submitted. I'll just view that program and see whether it's completed or not. This program is going to calendarize the cycle counting for the year. So this is complete. The output of the program, the way you have seen the output of the first program is this flag gets updated. The second program which I run, the scheduler program, which you can run from tool cycle count scheduler, output will be update these to date. So I'm going to refresh this now to see if that program is successfully completed. So you see both the dates has come. Today is the 3rd February, so it's pulled that date, and 4th February is the next working day, so it's taken that next working day. So imagine today is Friday, then 3rd February is Friday, so it will not consider Saturday, Sunday. It will say 4, 5, 6th of February as the next date, because you set as daily. If you set as a weekly, let's say today is Monday, then 3rd February, 3rd plus 7, 10th of February would be the next counting days, next time when you count. So based on what you select here, the dates will appear accordingly. For testing purpose, I suggest you to try both, like I'm trying daily, you can try weekly, at least you see the scheduling is happening by the system. This change is happening because you set the auto scheduler. Now the last program. Last program is, I want to count today. So I need a report that what I should count. That report generation is with the help of the program called generate count request. This is the 3rd concurrent program. Cycle counting is a mix of 3 programs, and that's all about cycle counting. This is the last one. I'm going to create this generate the request. This report will give me what I need to count today. So I'll see whether the report is completed or not. So this is the last concurrent program. This I can also view the output of it, but before I do that, I want to go back and show you what is the impact of that program. The starting sequence gets updated by that program. So at this point you can't have anything to count. This is just a sequence, start sequence. But how many products you need to count? If I just update, refresh this now, Control F11, 477. So today I have to count 477 items. Now I need to see the report that okay, I'm ready to count. So this setup, all 3 concurrent programs one after another, plays an important role. Just to summarize, first one will load the product. You can see the output from this tab. Second program will schedule this, because you put the auto schedule, it will populate these 2 data. Third one program, you want to create a sequence, you want to count now, so you need to have a report and how many items you want to count. This will update it and it will show 476 items to be precisely you have to count. So that is all about cycle counting. Now I'm going to go and perform the counting based on the report. So I'm going to run that report which I have already created. So this was a generate program. Is this the one? This is just this will just update this. Okay, so let me open this, close this now. I saved it. Now I'm going to perform the count. So I'll take a report now, right? So for that, there should be a report which is known as cycle counting listing report. Cycle counting listing report is a paper based report through which I can walk in and in the report itself I can write how much I counted area by area. So I now run this. um, if you want to give a specific thing you can mention here, otherwise perfectly I'm not doing anything except those defaulting parameter. So I ran this report. This is the fourth report. Three, those were concurrent program. Now these are the report through which I can, these reports are going to help me to perform the cycle counting in the system. So I'll take a printout of this and walk into the floor. Okay, so gonna do a view. So in this output I see now that read it from the top. It has my name here, cycle counting, the one that we created, retail, and 477 items are ranked here. This is number 1, number 2, and these are the all list of the product which is coming up. And this sorting is done by sub inventory because it makes sense, because if I have to go the entire org, I would like to go by area by area. So first I go to customer return, that is alphabetic sorting. So C comes first, that's the reason it's there. In this sub inventory I have to count these many sub inventory, these many products, and once I'm done with customer return sub inventory, then I go to FGI and store and so on and so forth. What my job would be to go and enter this data, which is count quantity, and any comments that I have to make I can put here, and I put my name, initials, and the date. These are the things that I would do, and I complete this exercise and return this sheet of paper to the person who is actually going to enter the data. This is the third person job now. One person will just count it and give it to someone, and that guy will get a report from this, and this is the unique number. He will query this number in the system 1, and he will enter the quantity, a reference, counted by, and all that. So let me go ahead and do that in the system. So I open up Meted. So I'm now the operator who is going to enter the data which has been given. So I just wanted to refresh this line. Okay, so here is the window called count. I can make use of this and enter the count, or if you don't like this, then there's a separate window as well which is called cycle counting entries. You can go here and search your cycle count header, find. It will find all open requests, say yes. Open means which is not counted. So you see the first item, it says sequence number 1. This is matching with the report. This is under cust sub inventory. So report is saying you counted X, let's say 100. So I'm going to punch in 100 here, and I keep doing it for the entire listing, which is 477 for today. It's a humanly not possible to do. So that's why this shopkeeper, retailer, he classify those few items which are of laptops or cameras and mobile phones, so that you only do in 1 hour time whatever you can count, limited number. So and when you do the rest entire organization wide, the entire shop wise counting, then you do it on the holidays or a special day, right? You invite all your people because it's a very labor intensive. So this is how you're going to enter all this line item one by one and save it. So I just want to put some large quantity here. Both I'm putting 5,000. I don't know at this point what is the current on-hand quantity, because it's not available in this form, because we said that display would not be available. You won't be able to see that while we set it up this retail. And I put some reference. What is there any reason, any reference, who has counted? Maybe someone else is picking up my name, but if someone else has counted, I'll put other name and all that. So these are all lookups and free field. You can configure this in the system. So if I put so as a principle, in principle, a guy who is entering the data, who is operator, he should not be worried about what would be the adjustment. What he needs to focus is, I'm entering the accurate information which has come through the report. So his job is just to ensure that whatever there in the physical report, I'm just seeing that and entering the data. So that's why it's a 3 people job, and nobody knows who is doing what. So chances of having a malpractice in the organization will be lowered. That's why we do cycle counting, one of the reasons. So I just put this number because the guy has given me a report which is saying the physically 5,000 products are available. So I go ahead and I believe and update now. Before I update, I'll just quickly show you what is the current on-hand quantity, so that we can when the adjustment will be made, you will realize that okay, this adjustment is coming from the cycle counting, not from the on-hand quantity, original quantity. So I'll copy this item. Let's take AS54. Organization wide availability of the item I can search from the material screen. So I'm going to do that. So I go to the navigator window, I search this item availability, which is kind of here on hand availability window, and this is the on hand quantity. So I'll take this. So I can search, I don't worry, I just need a number at org level, so I don't want to tick the detailed flag. I put the item code and tab out, click the find button. Sorry, this is okay. I'm just waiting for okay. I got this now. I click on availability. So the total availability is 4507 primary quantity, and net quantity availability is so 42 is the number that is in 4200 almost. I'm going to put 5000 so that when I adjust it, you will see the considerable change. And I don't know, did you guys see this? Yeah, this is the available total on hand quantity is 4507. Okay, so yeah, I think I'm clicking it, so the speed between two of us is not matching. I've clicked so many times. Okay. So we'll go back now and do an adjustment of 5000. So I can close this. I go here and save this. So for today I'm done with my counting, so I'm going to save now. So this line item got saved. It did not trigger any of the pop-up saying that your transaction is processed. So typically if you're within the limit of the tolerance that we said 10%, if you are within the limit, it will pop up a message saying that your transaction is processed. That means whatever you enter, that is the final value in the Oracle on-hand quantity. So if there is no pop-up, that means there is a disconnect between what is there in the system availability and what you are entering, which we have seen now 4200 and 5000 here, so there's out of tolerance. So system will just save this record and it will go for approval, although there is no message, but it's gone for approval. And the approval is now, third person will come now. Data entry operator job is over. So let's see the person who is in charge of the inventory, M1. So I log in now and see what has come to my place. So we just entered the data and saved it, and now it's time to switch the hat and wear the inventory manager role, which will require me to approve this. So I have to go to the cycle counting and then open the cycle counting, and there is a approve count window. This is what I was talking about, the security based approval. So or you can say function based approval or access based approval. If you have this particular menus or sub menus or function accessible to your responsibility, you should be able to do that. So I search uh yeah, so I put the 500 count in the cycle counting entry form. There is a form in which I can enter what has been physical counted by somebody else, the guy who counted. And my job would be just to punch those data from the report, physical report which we have seen, into the system. And there's a specific form called cycle counting entries form. So I make use of that form and I entered all the data, 5,000, 5,000 for example. I should have done 477 all items because today is the last date for the counting, but for training I just only for 2. Once I'm done with typing, let's say I completed all, then I saved it, and the next my job, data entry job, is over. So now there comes the inventory manager. He comes in, he accesses this form which is called cycle counting adjustment approval summary form. He type in the counting cycle count and find. So again it's asking the pending approval, so yes. So it's come, AS54 had come for approval. And now as a guy who is a manager, he can see each and everything, because he's saying that okay, the quantity, system quantity was 65 for AS54888, and what has been adjusted was 5,000. So 5,000 was the entered value, so 5,000 minus 65 is 4935. So this is the adjustment will be made, and you multiply the unit cost of the item, you get this 66,34,000, which is way too high, but normally it won't happen. But he will decide, and now that okay, 7,592, that's a weird data, but this is the what has been entered, and now he has a job to approve this, reject this, and recount this. Now if I don't like it, I can send this for recount, and when I send it for recount, system on hand quantity will remain unchanged, and the guy who has counted, he has to again count. The guy who is data entry operator, he has to again enter. It will come to me again if it is out of tolerance. So that cycle you can continue by selecting this. So this is a scenario of manual recount. So automatic recount is one setup, through which you don't need to do this, you don't need to come to this form, system automatically send for recount. If you want to manual recount, this is the option. I'm going to approve this. If you reject it, nothing will happen, everything data get processed, data will not have any impact on the on hand quantity. If I approve that, it will have an impact, so I'm going to say that. Now you can, at this point you have a lot of information available to you as a manager. You can see everything, which lot, which quantity, which sub inventory, a lot of reason, reference, whatever they have entered, everything will be seen in this window, right? What you entered was this. Now who has entered, the name, reference, everything will come. So count is the one which has been data entered, 5,000 quantity is 54888, and I'm going to approve this. So the way I do is I radio button click and save. I can reject and recount. Those are the other simulation, other type of scenarios that you can try out. Now you see the cursor is busy, so at this point adjustment is getting processed. Now I can open up the material transaction to see what transaction has been posted, what were the transaction type, and also I can check the on hand quantity. So cycle counting procedure is complete. Now we are validating. You can generate variety of report out of this cycle counting. Let's talk about those report very quickly. So I open up the cycle counting header where I have defined retail. You can get all of report now from this tool window. So if you want to get the entries and adjustment report, you can do that. You can see now open adjustments, schedule request, all the ones that we have done. Have you done any kind of this is the main report actually, entries and adjustments. So I'm going to open this and show you what adjustment has been posted. So I did run, and then the view request, click on the find button. So this was the program that we just ran, it's running. and it's going to give me the report. This is the post facto analysis. Cycle counting is all done now for one line item. Rest of the line you have to enter and do it. So I can go and click a view output now. So here if you can see, there were two line items we worked upon, ASA181, and this is the second item. This particular item was actually a hit because what you see, there is no adjustment. Everything was as it is, but the second item, AS54888, this has gone through the major adjustment, 4935, and you can now scroll down to see some of the summary levels. So we have only one sub inventory, customer cust return, so we got two lines, and this is some details of it. And similarly you can do a hit miss report as well, because this is a kind of hit, right? So accidentally we hit the exact number, but this is the sub inventory total. So you have five different sub inventories, all that sub inventory subtotal will come, and this is the grand total. In this case it was only one sub inventory, so you see only the numbers are matching. So this report name is what we call cycle counting, entries and adjustment. This is one of the report that you get at the end of it. So let's close this and submit another request just to try out. There is a hit miss analysis reports that you can publish now. Let's analyze whether there is a hit or not, otherwise it will record one hit, one miss. I ran the concurrent program. I can view the concurrent program. So report refresh. We'll just take 5 more minutes and we would conclude this. So this is the report, and I can do a view. Okay, this is the hit miss report. Long time back I saw this. So okay, let's analyze this. So what is it? The cycle counting, some of the cycle counting details, class A, class B. Okay, fine. There was no tolerance set, so it's showing everything blank. Over here you have a report which has yes. So you got class A, 2 entries, out of tolerance 0. The tolerance was not set. So where is the, how do you read this? Total count was 2, total entries were 2. Okay, so actually what we have to do is we have to enter the hit and miss value when you define the cycle counting, and then probably you can see some better result. Right now it's just took everything as 100%, but that should not be the case. I think that this is happening because of we did not put any tolerance value. Otherwise we should see some good data. This data, it doesn't, I don't understand this. But you can do a next round and then you enter the hit and miss value to get a report like this. If the practice is to analyze hit miss, otherwise adjustment report is good enough to see what has happened after your cycle counting. Next is the on-hand report. Let's open up the material workbench. Okay, and look for that product which is AS54. So customer return was the sub inventory that we used. So let's go ahead and filter this by cust return. Cust return, because we did only for one sub inventory, right? So I want to specifically search this item in the cust return sub inventory, and you can scroll right and you see the 500 quantity has been reset. This reset is because of cycle counting. You can further analyze by going to view material transaction to validate this. I'm gonna close, kind of stuck. It's not closing. Just a minute. Okay, you can now verify the material transactions, the transaction type basically. That's where we originated. So we talked about couple of transaction types. Now we'll see the cycle counting related transaction type. I don't know, the mouse is not working. Yeah. So I go to transactions and fine. So the last thing was getting into transactions and then view material transaction. Go to your organization and if you want to search by item, otherwise you can search everything. So there's only one line item. This has been transaction type. If you see, this was the transaction type, cycle count adjust. Under this was the last transaction type that I want to talk about. So it has a source. That source has captured as a cycle counting header name, and you see the total adjustment amount 4935, and action was also cycle counting adjustment. So that's all. You can see the costing flag is also updated, and if you want to see the accounting entries, then you should go here. Since you are creating surplus inventory, oh, why there is no accounting? Oh, it should be here something. The accounts we have given, it should show up. No, something might be wrong, or maybe some cost manager has already run. It's created the distribution account. Anyway, it's not visible. Don't know why, but this is what I wanted to show, the cycle counting adjustment entries. So that's all about those counting. And now that we have the basic done, I would suggest that I'll upload this video, but you have to also see those 3-4 scenarios that we talked about. They're all same, but the manual scheduling, manual loading of item and all that, auto recount, right? So those scenarios, those are like same, the base is same, you just have to try that. And those actual videos are also, I've already recorded them, so you may well like to look that if you're not able to troubleshoot. And those videos are all there in the LMS website, so you can have a look.